Welcome to Speak Up International with Rita Burke and Elton Brown. Today we have Mr. Kenneth Alexander, and he is going to read an excerpt from his book, The Successful Man, A New Vision of Masculinity. Mr. Alexander, the virtual floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Elton. Yep, I'm going to read an excerpt from chapter 6, Chasing Money to Reach Success. We've all received the message. It starts young, long before we have the words to question it. Make money, achieve success, prove your worth. It's everywhere, woven subtly into dinner conversations, whispered from TV screens, painted on billboards, plastered across the internet, and echoed in the music we listen to. We absorb it silently, learning to equate wealth with worth, success with significance. And these aren't just ideas, they are commands. You feel them in your bones. Be somebody, do something impressive, win the game. As boys, we quickly realize how the world measures us, not by kindness, creativity, or how deeply we care, but by performance, productivity, and possessions. Even before we fully understand what money is, we understand its message clearly. Those who have it are important, powerful, and respected. Those who don't are overlooked, forgotten, and considered failures.
I could listen to more. Thank you. The voice you have just heard is that of Mr. Kenneth G Alexander, and he's an award-winning entrepreneur and author of The Successful Man, as Elton just said in the top of the show. He's also a speaker who explores how boys are conditioned to disconnect from their emotions. Ken helps men to rethink masculinity and success in ways that lead to stronger relationships, deeper self awareness, and a more grounded sense of identity. Ken's life has spanned continents and industries. Mr. Alexander has also served the United States Marine Corps. I could say lots more about him, but as we say on Speak Up International, we prefer if our guests tell their own stories. It's more authentic, it's more organic. And so I welcome you today to Speak Up International, Mr. Kenneth G. Alexander.
Thank you so much, Rita. That was a wonderful introduction.
You and I have something in common.
Yes, sir.
And that is having a resilient single mom.
Yeah.
And we know how strong those women can be.
Right. We definitely do.
Understanding of strength, love, and emotional expression. All of this coming from your mom. How did those attributes make you feel?
Yeah. So my mom, man, she's my hero, really. My mom had 7 children by the time she was 24 years old. And I recall, she divorced. And so 6 boys and 1 girl, and the girl's the baby. So I recall my mom divorcing my stepfather in the 4th grade. And from then on, she reared 7 of us. She worked at night to make sure she was home for us in the mornings, to get us off to school, have dinner when we were ready. And she just did so much to take care of us when we were smaller. And I just watched how she thoughtfully cared for us, and watch how she cared for so many other people. I recall just the older folks in our family where we'd have holiday dinners and stuff, and she would always make sure she went and picked them up and bring them over. And so I just watched her show us love, and not only us, but love to the other parts of her family and her friends. And she's 86 years old now, and she's still doing it. She's volunteering. She feeds the homeless. She's in and she's the NAACP secretary, church secretary. I mean, doing all these things still now to serve people. So service and love and giving back, and that's the kind of strength that my mom had. Of course, she had her challenges, but that's what I see. And she's got 6 mama's boys.
Elton said when he was asking you the question that you have a lot in common. And based on what you've just said about their mom, you certainly have a lot in common. And you said as well that she's a boy's mama. I like that. And
Yeah.
she's still going strong. But I want to go back. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you some questions about this quote unquote strong woman who raised you. But I want to start off first by talking about your awards. Tell us a little bit about the awards that you have achieved over the years.
Oh, so the awards I achieved, and if you look at, I don't know anything about personality types and the Enneagram, I'm a type 3 achiever, and that's kind of what I do. And we go off and we like to achieve stuff and compete and all that. But I played college football. When I played college football, I've won like defensive player of the year, that kind of stuff. Uh, when I was in corporate life, I won awards for uh, developing business, for sales, uh, for basically getting big awards, big contracts, won awards there. And then once I retired, I opened up a restaurant, Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. It's a family restaurant with my younger son, and we won awards with that restaurant. That was a whole different thing. It was like being, it was something we owned, and we won the Arizona Daily Star Reader's Choice Award for best barbecue in Southern Arizona 5 years in a row. And out of 7 years that we ran the restaurant, I decided to retire from the restaurant business after 7 years. But after the first year, we won runner up, and then the 5 years after that, we won best barbecue. And so it was really rewarding. I guess the thing about the restaurant and the award is that how much the community really enjoyed and cared about what we were doing at that restaurant. And so it's we still have a food truck and run a catering business, but it's all it's the brand. We built the brand, and people love the brand.
Wow. Just thinking about that barbecue makes my mouth water. I feel like that character, I think it was a cat named Sylvester.
Oh yeah.
And he kind of was, his mouth was always full of saliva when he was talking. So I know how I feel about barbecue or BBQ.
BBQ.
I love it. Can you give us an overview of the doctrine and cultural programming? Those two things seem to go together in a way.
Yeah.
So can you explain those two pieces and how they work together?
Yeah. So the doctrine, the way I define the doctrine is the inherited beliefs that we pass down from generation to generation as to how we rear children. And there's certain aspects that we include in there. I mean, and it's the thing about the doctrine, it's based on and built on patriarchy. And the reason and because it's based on patriarchy, that's why my focus has been on men, because they run the world. So if men are having issues, then the world is going to have those same issues. And when you have these inherited beliefs that are passed down, and they're built into everything, like competition, dominance, emotional suppression, for sure. Men disconnected from their feelings. Scarcity is built in there. Polarity. And then the other thing is external validation. Everybody's always looking outside of themselves to be validated. I mean, and that really causes a lot of harm if you need somebody to, like, pump you up all the time and before you can feel like you're really valuable, And then the other thing is that it's hierarchy and oppression. And I mean, when you look around the world, you see how all of these things are just how they're affecting our world today, especially today. And so my thing and the premise of the book is that these are learned. The way we learn to be the way we are today, it's all learned, and it's based on this doctrine that we use to teach our kids how to be, especially in the United States. I mean, I live in the US, and the US has a different personality than a lot of other places. I mean, because here, it's all about chasing and achieving and acquiring and those things. So it's built in, and you see it everywhere. I mean, other countries have different personalities, but since the dollar has so much influence on the world, it spills over on other countries and the world economy. So everybody's chasing.
I like your concept or your image of the doctrine. And so that means that if that doctrine, I'm not sure if it's intentional or it's just organic, but to undo that, it calls for unlearning. So where do we start to unlearn or to teach a different doctrine? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so one thing is that, and the reason I wrote the book and the reason I really dug into this is because of my sons, my nephews. And I had a family business. Now, I'm there working with my sons and nephews, and I see them all the time because we're a close family. Learning from my mom. Every Sunday we have people coming by for dinner, and we're a close family. But I see how they struggle in life, millennials and Gen Z, and I see that the troubles that they have, and it's all learned. A lot of people complain about, man, these young people, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what time it is. And and they say, didn't they see us? I hear my friends coming like, man, can you believe these kids today? Didn't they see how we did it, how we worked? And my answer to that is, yes, they saw it, and they don't want it. They don't want to work until they drop. They don't want to, self-medicate all the time. They don't want to just, they want their relationships to be good. So they don't want that. And that's all because of how we just continue to pass this along. And so how do we stop it? One is kids are watching, or our children, whatever, they watch what we do. I mean, they don't care what you say. I mean, you can say it till you're blue or brown or whatever you are in the face, but they're watching what you do. And so you have to model the behavior that you want them to have. And the first thing is, and how do we do it is, first, it all starts like Michael Jackson says in his song, The Man in the Mirror, the person in the mirror. you have to start with yourself. And as you change you, as you realize why, and I say change you because this whole thing about uh, this midlife crisis, that's where around 40 years old, people get there and say, what have I been doing all this for? I checked all the boxes. I did everything I was supposed to do, and my life is in shambles. I mean, I'm not happy. My relationships are in the toilet, and all, you know. And so that's when they see it, and that's when. And so I don't want my nephews and sons and whatever to get to 40 before they figure out that they've been living somebody else's model of success. Somebody told them that this is the way you get there. This is the way you're happy. So so the thing is that it starts with us. I mean, it starts regardless of where you are in age, or where your station is. That's where it starts, inside out. And as you change you, everything changes around you.
You talked a little bit about looking in the mirror, and if I remember correctly, you also talked a little bit about armor and this whole thing about transformation. So, in transforming, I guess you put on this armor as you're transforming, or maybe after you've transformed,
Well,
but you're putting on this armor to survive and succeed. So what did your armor look like for you?
okay, so my armor for me is when I was a young kid, I was emotional, felt, and I was teased for that. I was teased for having emotions, for being a crybaby. They used to like, it's like this passive aggressive thing. Oh, he's tenderhearted, you know. And so what happens is I'm in a urban community. I have five brothers, and then all the men around you are always, they're talking about being tough and being and be a tough guy and don't cry and all these kinds of things. So what ends up happening is, in order to survive, you have to put on a mask. You can't show tenderness. And that happens to a lot of boys. They start out tender. Babies start out tender. And then when you keep telling them that, oh, they fall down and skin their knee, oh, you're not hurt. Oh, that doesn't hurt. Oh, somebody hurts your feelings and say, what are you crying for? You're a boy. And so you have to toughen up. And the only way to make it is to put the mask on, or else you're going to be ridiculed and teased for the rest of your life. And so now you have a mask on. And so, but that doesn't stop those feelings from coming up. But now you just can't express them. You have to keep them inside. You can't let anybody see them. So that's the mask that men wear through life. And you wonder why men don't go to the doctor. Men don't do a lot of things because they're supposed to be okay. You can't like have a child disconnect from the feelings, and the only way they can survive is not show emotion, and then expect that child, when they grow up to be a man, all of a sudden they're emotionally intelligent. And so that's the mask I'm talking about. That's just one mask, but you're wearing this mask. You get there, you can't really show your emotions. You have to be a tough guy. And then when you look around our world, all the images you see on television and the movies and everything else, everybody's a tough guy. That's how you, and so that's what you see, but that's not really you. And so whenever you get to that point where you're saying, man, you don't even know who you really are. And when you do look in the mirror, and if you're able to like pull that mask off and just be who you really are, it's really hard to even know what you feel. And I would ask you, Elder, have you ever been somebody or a woman has asked you, well, how do you feel? And then you was like sitting there puzzled, like, I have been there. And I'm like, I don't really know. Because when you don't exercise, you know, because right now the only feeling men are okay, that's okay for men to have is anger. And most of their feelings or frustrations all come out as anger. They can't really pinpoint what they're actually feeling. And that's because of they've been wearing the tough guy mask for so long that they're not connected to their feelings.
I like that. And we know that. When we sit down and ponder as adults, as human beings, we know that. It's a reality that we cannot run from. So you also said that it's patriarchal. Where did it
Right.
begin? Where did it begin?
Well,
Where did it begin?
it began the day that, well, patriarchy's been around for thousands of years. I mean, and that's just the way that men are supposed to run things. That's built into our culture, society all around the world.
Built
And
into
men,
religion. Built into our religion.
built in religions, it's built into everything, especially religion, especially religion. I mean, women go to church, but men run it. And so women give the money, but the men run it. And so it's built in, you know, this whole hierarchy oppression is patriarchy. And so that the patriarchy is in from the beginning, from the day that that they looked at the what is it, the sonogram and saw, hey, it looks like that's a boy. And start buying the blue stuff and the bats and the this and start, hey, my little man, I'm going to have a little man, it starts there. And then since it's so ingrained in our world, the patriarchy is already there. I mean, most people don't even, a lot of people don't even know what patriarchy means. But the concept is built into our world.
How can men distinguish between healthy ambition and performance-based identity?
Yeah, because at an early age, it's like you have these little kids and they're in the starting blocks like of a race. And right there, especially in this country, it's all about achieving an external validation. And it's, they used to call it the American dream back in the day, and the American dream was about the car, the house, the spouse, the this, and that's all searching for something outside of you for happiness or joy. I mean, those words don't even come up when you're a little, as you're talking to your kids, or people are talking to their kids, and how many times do happy, joy, and those things come up in a conversation, or following your own dreams, or knowing who you are? None of that comes up. The model is to achieve, and you achieve by acquiring things. And so that's it. I mean, so we launch our kids off into this achievement, this world of achievement, this chase of achievement. And how do you stop that? The way you stop it is, and how do you get off that train, is to know that you're enough. You don't have to get external validation to be enough. You were born enough. I mean, and when you look at like little kids, from the time they go to school and they start, grading them, ranking them, and oh, my kid, oh, you got an A. Oh, that's so nice. Or you got a B or whatever. I mean, so you start training kids that the better I perform, the more praise and the more external validation that I am going to receive. I mean, so that's when I say these things are baked in when they're all over our society. I mean, we are, we were doing this and we don't even realize it. We don't even
We're not,
realize that you're training your kids to seek external validation.
yeah, that's so true. That is so true. That it's what is fed to us, fed to them from the people around them that
Yeah,
determines who they are, if they're quote unquote successful or not. But
right.
also talk about and refer to a terminology called reframing masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
What exactly does that mean? What exactly does it mean to you? And when did you realize that there's a need to do that?
Well, I realized it when I talked about my, I don't know, sometimes they call it the dark night of the soul or whatever. But when I got to that point, the midlife crisis, the crisis that I had about 17 years into being in the corporate world. And I looked around and had all this stuff. We had the house, we had the car, we were going on the vacations or whatever, but son wasn't really happy with me. My wife wasn't really happy with me. I mean, because I'm out and I'm performing. I'm like, okay, so they need to understand I'm out here working, doing what I'm supposed to do to provide for this family. And everybody needs to just get in line and understand that this is the way. Give me some respect here. I'm out here working my butt off and they're enjoying the benefits of me working my butt off, not resting, not being at home. And then,
You sound like my daddy.
then I took a hard look around and I was like, okay, how could, I'm saying, why doesn't this feel like success? Why doesn't it feel like success? And that's because I'm living somebody else's model. And at that point is when I had to really change. And I did that I got a life coach at that time. And then she showed me, that I didn't have to continue to perform, and that was not the way. And I didn't have to seek internal validation, and that's not what people wanted from me. That's not what the people I cared about wanted from me. What they wanted was presence. And the thing is, so this other model of masculinity is all built on chasing and external validation and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, and being disconnected from your feelings. But the thing is that a lot of men think being disconnected from your feelings is weakness. But the thing is, if in a new model of masculinity, you can still create a safe space for yourself, be a man, protect, and do those things. But you can also create, and that's a safe physical space. But to be a real and a man that's whole, you can also create a safe space for, to be whole, not just a physical space, but you can create a safe emotional space. And that's what's missing. You got all these guys out here and say, yeah, I need to protect my family. I need to do this. But the thing, but where you are failing your family is there is not a safe emotional space, a space where you can be present with your family and your relationships. That's what's missing. And that's what the doctrine, and that's what this current a model of masculinity doesn't allow you to do. Because you're always worried about, how am I going to look with the fellas? How is the world going to look at me like, if I show some emotion, if I show some feeling, you know what I'm saying, Elton?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I remember growing up, and I remember one time, this was when my dad got me a bike for Christmas. I was so happy because it was what I wanted, and I ran over to him, and I went to hug him. He just pushed me away. I was stunned. I said, I just want to hug him. It wasn't I was trying to
Wow.
pickpocket the man.
Yeah.
So I understand, about this whole thing about emotions, and they have to, be packaged and, put away. It's very disheartening for the individuals that have to live with this person with no feeling. It's like living with a dead fish, you
Yeah.
know. And what do you do with that? I really don't know. So speaking of dead fish, yeah, how did your experience in the Marine Corps and college shape your views on masculinity?
Yeah. So I went to the Marine Corps before I went to college because I didn't have the money to go to college, and I needed something else before I went to college. Uh, Even though I wanted to go to college first, but that just wasn't possible. But the Marine Corps, what did the Marine Corps do for me? And coming out at 18, growing up, at 18 years old, I needed, well, I wasn't physically fit enough to go off and play college football, which I really wanted to do. That was one. And so that was one thing that Marine Corps did is it taught me it the way to be physically fit and train my body and those things. And so that was really a great thing, going to the Marine Corps. The other thing that it taught me was teamwork and discipline. Yeah, so I learned teamwork and discipline there, uh, and brotherhood. How to care for um, your other comrades, your teammates, the people that you would go into a foxhole with. Just to really, especially in the Marine Corps. I mean, it's really a brotherhood. So, I mean, those are the good things that I learned in the Marine Corps. And I mean, it totally reshaped my body going in there. And I went to a place called Parris Island, South Carolina, which is in the middle of the swamps. And, talking about heat, sand fleas, and all kind of other stuff and whatever. But in boot camp, that was 13 weeks of that. But coming out of there, they were in there teaching us how to be a lean, green fighting machine. And so those were those were the good things that I learned in the Marine Corps. But, one of the other things, though, there was another side of that. And as far as the doctrine and those things go, is that I found that misogyny uh, was a big thing. I mean, even the songs and stuff that we sang and the way we saw women and or they were portrayed there. I mean, just and it was again it was built in our cadences and the stuff we ran around saying and that kind of stuff. And then when you hear the stories from guys coming in from overseas or whatever, and that was that was a big thing. And the other thing is polarity, the good guys, the bad guys. And I mean, there you taught about it, you know, it's us against them. And the them is whoever we point the spear at. So that, you know, that thing, you know, and regardless of who they are and the names that you have for them and whatever, and, you know, the derogatory names you have for them. But the thing is that, and I don't want to go too long here, but in the Marine Corps, I was in the Marine Corps during Jimmy Carter's presidency. And that's the only president I can think of that didn't take us to war. And it was a peacetime. But the thing about it was right after Vietnam. And so there were a lot of people coming back from Vietnam. And so the other thing I saw was the trauma of war. And they were alcoholics. They were addicts. And I was seeing how that the military was not taking care of the people that came back from with all this trauma from war. So I witnessed that too. So there was a lot of good things that came from the Marine Corps. The other things, they were education. You know, it made me realize that what was really going on. And yes.
At the time when you were immersed in it, though, did you understand, did you realize the significance of what was occurring? One question. And next, you're talking about being involved with that during the Jimmy Carter era. I understand Jimmy Carter, and I suspect the world, to be a man of peace and tenderhearted and kindness and those kinds of things. So you had one layer of that at one point.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing about it is, at the time, I'm just a kid, right? I don't understand it. I didn't really understand it until later, and I didn't appreciate it until later. That, you know, to me, man, I mean, and the thing about it is, I look back at Jimmy Carter, and he was not. I mean, we didn't embrace him like we should have. I mean, we embraced the warmongers and that, but and people, they, man, there were no wars when he was president. There he was doing peace. We had Egypt, Israel. We had, you know, I mean, he brought peace during his whole time. And when I look back on it, I'm very grateful for that I didn't have to go to war. Even though I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't have to go because he didn't start any wars. And so I couldn't appreciate it during the time. I just saw it happening. I saw him like standing down. He was like, you know, I mean, he was really the enemy of this defense industrial complex. That's one reason why they got him out the door, because, you know, he was reducing the defense budget. He was reducing the number of people in the military. All those things were happening on his watch, which was really a good thing. But there's so many people that, like, you know, wars are financed. And so, you know, we need something to boost the economy. Let's start a war. Anyway, I'm digressing, but that was my Marine Corps experience, and those were the lessons I learned later on to go back and appreciate and love Jimmy Carter.
Well, you know, Jimmy Carter was a good man, and yes, there were no wars. And maybe it was because he was sending them bushels of peanuts. I don't know. I don't know. He could have been.
I don't know either. But
whatever he was doing.
Elton is because he was kind and gentle-hearted. So he didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
So, but that was my Marine Corps experience. And it caused me to go back and reflect on it years later and appreciate it more.
you've traveled the world. I mean, you really travel. I'm sure you must have gone through several suitcases by the time you finished visiting 45 plus countries, give or take. So, what would be out of the 45 countries, what was your, how do I say this? The common denominator for men
Yeah,
out of the 45 countries that you've been in, was there a common denominator with all of them that you could write in a book, your
yeah.
book?
I'll tell you what, that from 45 countries, a lot of them, some were vacation, but many of those were for work.
Mhm.
And, the thing about it is, I used to work for a defense contractor, and I traveled around meeting military people from all over the world. Um, but also, I would take the time to really explore the country and see what was really going on. How the culture and how everybody lived in the country. The haves and the have-nots. And what I came to realize is that we are so much more alike than we are different. I've been, to Asia, to Europe, to Africa, to the Middle East, South America. I've been to place Australia, different. I've been all over the world and seen people from all these. And, and the thing about it is, people want basically the same thing. They want to be able to take care of their family. They care about education. They care about food, water, different. I mean, that's what they want. And I realized that men kind of like all over the world are like especially in some of the industrialized countries, that they're doing the same thing, that they're chasing, that they're seeking things outside of themselves, external, validation, and that it's all the same, that there's a doctrine, that there's patriarchy and there's a doctrine, and it's global. That is what I realized. And the other thing that I realized bigger is that this world is connected economically more than people think it is. And that, when I'm in these hotels and I look outside the window, why do I see, well, if I'm in Kuala Lumpur, or if I'm in Rio or Sao Paulo, or I'm in Paris, or I'm in, even countries like Egypt or Hong Kong or whatever, why do you see the same company logos in all these places, and some places that are not even supposed to really get along? And so that kind of tells you that our global economy is tightly held and run by not a lot of people.
So, what it tells you, based on my understanding, is that the bottom line is the same. The rich gets rich and the poor remains where they are. But
Yeah,
Speak Up International, and on Speak Up International, we seek to inspire, to educate, and to inform. And I have no doubt that your story and the way you're telling it and the metaphor of the doctrine is profoundly important for us to think about. I don't know that we can undo it in our lifetime, but we need to understand it and to see if we can do just a little bit of shifting somehow, somewhere. I want you to respond to this prompt, please. Being well.
yeah. So being well is something I called healed, whole, and present. And the healed, those are that's the trauma and the wounds. Most of them go back to childhood, and we all have them. I mean, the prisons, especially in the United States, are full of people that had childhood wounds and trauma that went unaddressed, and they came out and they ended up being in school. You know, they treated them as like, oh, they are a bad kid or this or what. But and it's full of kids, people from foster care or whatever. So I'm saying wounds, and we go through life with these childhood wounds, making decisions or whatever, and they never get addressed. And so one is healing those wounds. I mean, and those traumas, and that's the heal part. So that's the thing is like when we look at our dads, when I look at my stepfather and my biological father, I mean, it's some of the stuff that they did or didn't do. I can't judge them because I don't know what traumas they went through. I don't know what their childhood looked like. I don't know if somebody abused them, if they beat them, if they whatever. I mean, so I can't be the judge. And so you have so many people going through this life with these wounds that are not healed. So the thing is, okay, so one is healed, that we've healed those wounds. We're not running around and making decisions based on the traumas and stuff that we've had. The other thing is whole, where our mind, body, and spirit are all in alignment. The way we think and what we think, the way we feel in our body, because these traumas and whatever, that's where they rest in your body. They don't go away. And then in your spirit, where what you believe. And so all of that's in alignment. And then the other thing is present. The presence is, how are you in your relationships? How do you show up? How do you show up in a room? I mean, so that is the presence. And so whole, healed, and present. And that's how I see it. That's what wellness means to me. Is if you can be that, you can have a life that's joyful, and your relationships are going to be great. And that's all. I mean, so a lot of people, guys, like, well, what's a woman look for? She's looking for somebody healed, whole, and present. That could be present, but that's what a man is looking for too. That's what you need. You don't want trauma and wounds. That's not going to go well in a relationship, and until you address it. And so the thing about that is, like, one of the reasons that people have to self-medicate is because those wounds and those traumas that haven't been addressed, that haven't been taken care of. And there's a lot of places to get that help. But the first thing you do is go back to the mirror. You see it and you say, okay, I need help. And you go and start trying to heal those traumas.
There are so many people, and I hate using this word, but they're broken. Okay, and it's through no fault of their own. It just happens that they're in a situation that maybe a little toxic, or maybe they didn't have enough money, and he got to live across the street from those who had, and he was on the side of the street that accumulated to be the knots. How does that long-term separation that's created, because it's like a chasm where you see, even now, where we see a chasm of the ultra rich and then we have the rest. And how many of these men that we see currently in positions of power that are broken? And so the question is, how can someone, I don't want to say the same thing you did, self medicate, but how would they be able to know, okay, you know what? I've got a I've got a problem. I sat there and argued with my wife for 15 minutes about absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. What was wrong with me?
Yeah.
So how can men, you know, check themselves through life? Must they always have someone there to say, "Oh, you've done it again," or is there things that they can do? Oh, maybe buy your book. No.
Yeah. So it was a lot in that, what you just said. But the first thing is what we're talking about is learned. This whole thing about what success looks like is all learned. Somebody told you that success was somebody having a lot of money. And right now, when you look at the world, and you know, most of my world takes place in these borders, right? And so everybody wants to be a millionaire, or now they want to be a billionaire, and it's all over the place. And I'm just surprised in competition and wanting to chase money and all that thing. It's everywhere, and so I'm saying it's all we're teaching it. We're I mean they're I mean it's crazy when I look at even all the sports now. All this You can't watch sports without somebody talking about gambling, and all the network TV stations and all the sports teams or whatever, they're aligned with gambling companies now. Because everybody wants to be rich, everybody wants to take a chance, everybody. And so the thing is that it goes back to this whole external validation thing. And these people that you talk about and you say are broken, that have this learned behavior, that have all this money but are not happy. I mean, you see them; they're not happy because they're having troubles. I mean, I can name like the famous golfer that has all kinds of money, but you know, next thing you know, every time you look around, there's another problem. Where's the joy in that? Where's the joy? Where are the friends? Where's the family? I mean, where's that? So
By the way, he's
I know that
retired.
people,
By the way,
huh?
I said, by the way, he retired from golf.
Okay, but but the thing is that I mean that's a good thing, because when your time is up, your time is up. But the thing is that what do you do about it? I mean, you have to, like I say, check yourself, because I mean that's the whole. How many songs have been written about the Joneses and wanting something that somebody else has or whatever? And how many crimes have been committed about wanting something somebody else has? But is that what you need to be joy? Now, I can understand people that don't have enough to eat, and just, because we have all these people hoarding. We live in an abundant universe, but because of the hoarders, because of the people that, and we have all these billionaires and everything now that are hoarding, then there's not enough. I could go on and on. So, but the thing is, it all starts within you. Is that what's going to make you happy? If I get more stuff, if I get that Benz that he has across the street, is that when I'm going to get there? When is enough enough? Where is satisfaction? Where is sufficiency? And all I can say is that is it going back to discovering who you really are and what's really going to make you happy, and defining success on your own terms. Right now, I don't know. It may be too late for some people. if you can't get over with, like, I gotta have all this stuff, I gotta be a millionaire, I gotta be a billionaire or whatever. But our kids don't have to continue to be that. We don't have to keep teaching them to do it. But, if I'm 50, 60 years old and I'm still chasing this, like, hoop dreams, or I'm still chasing billionaire dreams or whatever, maybe it's too late for me to, I don't know. It doesn't have to be, but that person that you described, it may be too late for them.
I'm not sure that it's ever too late for anybody, but
Yeah.
yes, what you say loud and clear.
Yeah.
So, what do we do with people who've been socialized according to this age old, centuries old doctrine? How do we help them? You talk about looking in the mirror, and that's one of my favorite songs, believe it or not. I used to use it when I was in the classroom and talked to my students about the importance of
Yeah.
looking in the mirror. But you look in the mirror sometimes, and what you see looking back at you is skewed. But that looking in the mirror needs to say to you, there's some work that needs to be done.
Right.
And how strong are people? How willing are they to say, I don't like what I see, so I need to do some changing, some transformation. I need to do what Kenneth Alexander did. How many people would you say are that insightful, or that willing, or that intentional to want to do something about what they see in the mirror?
Yeah. It's not everybody, but the thing about it, you make a really good point. Nobody, the only person that can help you change is you. I mean, the only way your environment changes is if you change. Because, there's this thing about, I mean, I believe in the law of attraction, which is that you attract who you are. It's not what you believe, it's you attract who you are. And the only thing to change the environment around you is to change who you are. I mean, so when you look in the mirror, but because a lot of people in this world know something's not right. I don't feel good. I'm not, but they don't do anything about it. I mean, it's not like they don't know. They know something's not right. And could it be they don't know what to do about it? I know a lot of men are trained not to do anything about it because you're just supposed to, like, grind it through. You're supposed to be okay. Guys are, yeah, and I got some stuff. Or, yeah, my wife says that. She says I'm like this. I don't communicate or whatever, but she'll be all right. It'll be all right. Yeah, I know my kids are not talking to me, but that's just the way it is. You know, I know I have high blood pressure. I know, I'll have a heart murmur or whatever, but I'm getting old. That's just the way it is. I mean, so a lot of people know that they have problems, and, most problems manifest through illness, but they don't do anything about it. So the thing is that when you're in the mirror, you have to, like, want to do something or want to change. You want to change. And so, because, man, look around. There's so many self-help books and people and therapists and all that kind of stuff. So there's help is there. It's like getting people to realize. And so one of the things I try to do with my book is to allow people or give them an opportunity to see how we got there, that you were trained to do this, that it was all training. And if you were trained, if you learned how to do it, you can unlearn it. And I showed that these are the things that's being caused by what you learn. This is how it's affecting you and your relationships. But then I also offer tools to do it differently. And that I think that's the difference, because when you look on the internet and everywhere, everybody's talking about the problem, the problem, the problem, the problem. Nobody's offering solutions. And that's one of the things that those algorithms get people all spun up, but they never help them do it differently.
You know,
But it starts with you in the daggone mirror and wanting to change.
I had something to say about that mirror. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes the changes, good or bad, can be so small. So even though you're looking in the mirror, you don't see it. Now, maybe other people see it, but of course, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, all of us, we all say, "Whoo, I'm looking so good. Oh my God. How am I going to keep all of these people off me when I, just go to the supermarket to buy something, something to eat?"
Yeah.
It's these very subtle things that happen. And this is what happens to men over the years. These subtle changes happen, external, internal, that causes men to do stupid things like go out and kill 15 people with an AK-45, whatever the model number of the gun. Thank you, Marine. So it's a challenge, I think, to see a man, to be a man, and then on top of it, the woman who has to be a woman. Now, I don't know how you're going to define this woman because of the man that she's with. It's kind of crazed, all of these emotions that are pent up. And now you've got this woman, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the abuse starts happening. So where did that abuse come from? Did it come from the man? Maybe his father abused his mother, and it kind of trickles down. So yes, all of these things are learned, and I do think that the challenge is that they should be. It's difficult for it to be unlearned. Miss Rita, do you have something that you want to add before we conclude this conversation?
Yes, I have what I like to think of as my signature question. And my signature question, Mr. Alexander, puts you in a room with 10 young men. What do you want to leave them with about life, about love, about emotions? I want 3 concrete things, elements, statements you want to leave these young men with, please.
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say for men is that I would say to these 10 young men in this room is what I would like to see is define success for yourself, and before the world does it for you, before somebody else tells you like this is the way to go or whatever. And because most of us start chasing a life that we never chose, money, status, approval, and then one day we look up and realize it doesn't really even look like my life. So take the time to ask what actually matters to me, and build it from there. I mean, so that's like number one. Second thing I would say to these kids is learn the language of your feelings, because we still teach men to disconnect from their feelings. And the thing about it, not because it sounds good, but because the feelings are power. If you can't name what you feel, you can't really understand. You can't really understand yourself. And if you can't understand yourself, you're going to be reactionary. You're going to react to stuff instead of, being able to lead, and so most men we're not taught to feel, and it's not your fault, but it's not your fault that you're not taught to feel, but it is your responsibility. That and feelings are important. That's the gauge for. It's like a car, the gauge is on a car. If the oil light comes on, you need to do something about it. So feelings are the gauges for a human being. And so it's your learn to feel, learn that language. And the other thing is stop performing and start being the real person. That's the other one. You don't have to prove your worth every day. You don't have to seek validation outside of yourself. The thing is, you're already enough. You were born enough. And I don't care what they said about what grade you got when you were in kindergarten or whatever. You're already born enough. And the strongest person in the room, the strongest man in the room is the one who's really comfortable with who they are, not what somebody else says they are. And that's the person that's not trying to impress, but just being authentically them. And those, if you could do those things, you're going to have a life that you can actually feel, one that feels good to you. And you're going to have great relationships. You're going to have, those things right there. And so if I was in a room with 10 boys or 10 guys or whatever, that's what I would tell them.
That is invaluable advice for everybody, male, female. It really doesn't matter, because when you boil it down, emotions are emotions, and maybe they're charged differently, or maybe they're different if they come from a man versus a woman, but the emotions are basically the same. And we just have to remember to value them and not devalue anyone because of whatever it is that they're feeling or what they claim not to feel, which is interesting. Rita, we are way over. This is something that happens to us, Rita and I, all the time. We get into it, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's like, wow, you mean it's over? I was just getting ready. I had just got my hat, had my feet up now. I'm ready now to go. And you're telling me, no, stop? We promised you that it would be over long ago, but we really got caught up in this, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate the additional information that came out of this conversation. And so before I go, I don't want to forget, Rita, do you have anything else that you want to ask outside of a question?
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to say that things flowed, or a conversation flowed, and we went over time because we were not performing, because we were being our authentic, organic selves. And we were enjoying it so much because there's room in life for Black joy, I believe, for joy for everybody. And I think for me, it was a joyful experience. And I thank you. And I thank you. And I thank you. And I will always remember the doctrine.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you for tuning in to Speak Up International. If you wish to contact our guest, Mr. Kenneth G Alexander, please be prepared to submit your name, your email address, and the reason why you wish to contact Mr. Alexander at LinkedIn.com. Mr. Alexander has other social media accounts you can use to connect to him that will be listed in the description section on Spotify and other social media platforms. Your voice has the power to inspire, influence, and ignite change. We'd love to hear your story. We invite you to connect to us by sending your message that includes your name, company, or organization name, the valuable service you offer to your community, and your email address to info@speakuppodcast.ca. You can also find our new video podcast channel at the TTP Speak Up Podcast Video. You can find our audio podcast at www.speakuppodcast.ca. Our logo has a woman with her finger pointing up, mouth open, speaking up. As soon as the website passes inspection, you will be able to gain access to the audio and to the video versions of each podcast using the following link, www.speakuppodcast.ca. As a member of our Patreon group, you will gain access to a wide range of exciting benefits. We are working on providing you with early access to new episodes and the opportunity to suggest topics or guests for future episodes. Your contribution of $2 or $5 monthly will not only help sustain the continuity of the podcast, but also allow us to enhance the overall listening experience for all of our dedicated followers. Help us help you. www.patreon.com/Speak Up International. Don't miss our next episode. Join us again on Speak Up International, where we aim to inspire, to inform, educate, and entertain you.